It just goes to show you that AI can help you and give you these superpowers, but the power that you start with is really, really critical.
Cathy McPhillips is the Chief Growth Officer at the Marketing AI Institute, where she's at the forefront of making artificial intelligence approachable and accessible to businesses of all sizes. She oversees marketing, growth, and customer experience, including MAICON and the AI Academy for Marketers. Her journey in the marketing world spans decades, starting in Cleveland's advertising agencies, owning her own strategic digital marketing business, and leading marketing efforts for organizations like the Content Marketing Institute and Share Our Strengths No Kid Hungry campaign. Recognized as one of Folio's top women in media and a MarTechExec woman you need to know in Martech, Cathy has also been an Ohio University Jerry L. Sloan visiting professional in public relations. I'm a big fan of the Marketing AI Institute and its robust educational content and events, including its signature MAICON conference, which takes place this September in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm honored to speak on stage alongside other AI marketing experts like Cathy. And I couldn't be more excited to have Cathy on the show and proud that the Marketing AI Institute is headquartered in Ohio and part of the Responsible AI movement, which envisions a future where AI doesn't replace human creativity, but rather augments it, making marketing more intelligent and ultimately more human-centered. Today, you'll hear how AI is changing the trajectory of the marketing industry and how the Marketing AI Institute helps marketers understand, pilot, and scale AI. The conversation includes AI's role in content creation and the ethical and legal considerations surrounding AI-generated content. AI isn't going anywhere, and Cathy encourages marketers to embrace it, stressing the continued importance of human expertise alongside AI tools. We also discuss the delicate balance between AI efficiency and human creativity in marketing and reflect on how creativity is evolving in the age of AI. Get ready for a conversation that demystifies AI in marketing and provides practical insights for marketers at all levels, especially when we geek out about AI tools and prompts with tips that you can use today. What does it mean to Midwest prompt? Listen in to find out. Enjoy.
But have you ever thought, what if this is all just a dream?
Welcome to Creativity Squared. Discover how creatives are collaborating with artificial intelligence in your inbox, on YouTube, and on your preferred podcast platform. Hi, I'm Helen Todd, your host, and I'm so excited to have you join the weekly conversations I'm having with amazing pioneers in the space. The intention of these conversations is to ignite our collective imagination at the intersection of AI and creativity to envision a world where artists thrive.
Just a dream.
Cathy, welcome to Creativity Squared. It is so good to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I know we've been planning this for a few months now.
Yeah, well, I had to look it up before we started recording, that it's been almost actually a year since we've met at Dooley Social Studios AI event last year where we were both on stage. And I really, really enjoyed your presentation. And I'm a big fangirl of the Marketing AI Institute. So it's such a pleasure to have you on the show and dive into all the topics that you guys are working on over at the Marketing AI Institute.
Yep, absolutely.
So for those who are meeting you for the first time, can you share who you are, what you do, and a bit of your origin story?
Sure. So I just had my 3-year anniversary here at the Marketing Artificial Intelligence Institute. I head up growth, which includes marketing, a little bit of sales, customer experience, growing our programs and our events. And I come by way of 2 agencies in Cleveland I worked at right out of school. I went to OU, and then I started my own business for about 13 years. And a lot of my clients from the agency, as they were leaving their companies, called me and said, "Hey, can we give you some contract work?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've got a business." So that grew over the course of about 13 years. And then in 2012, I met Joe Polizzi. I'm not sure if you know Joe, at the Content Marketing Institute here in Cleveland as well. And I headed up marketing for the company, big event content marketing world that took place in Cleveland. And then Paul's been a good friend of mine. Paul is a CEO of the Marketing AI Institute. And he and I were talking one day, and here I am.
Amazing. Oh, and I didn't realize it. I actually own one of his books, The Marketing Blueprint, and I didn't put two and two together until just like last week that they're one and the same person.
Yes. And the thing about that is that's kind of how the Marketing AI Institute started, was that Paul was just trying to find efficiencies in his agency, because he owned an agency for 16 years. And, how could he use AI and other technologies to help streamline some of his processes, the RFPs, the reports, all the things that are repetitive, et cetera. And where could AI fit in so his team could be more productive, creative, all of the things we love doing.
Yeah, and he's been in the AI space a really long time, but I know when we chatted last year, that ChatGPT moment was a really big game changer for your institute, as it is with, I feel like, all AI in the world. But can you kind of tell us the difference from the seat that you sit? What kind of happened before ChatGPT and what's happened since its launch for you all?
Yeah, Paul just told this story at the AI and CLE event. We had it earlier in June, and he was telling his story, and it kind of was like a little bit, pulling at the heartstrings. He was talking about how he had the agency, got really interested in artificial intelligence, and kind of went down this rabbit hole of all these ways it could help with the agency. And then this pet project that was a blog turned into a little bit more, then turned into a company. And it was really interesting. Paul was just telling the story the other day, and it was really emotional to me because he started the business as, I really am interested in this. I know it can impact my business and it can impact other people's businesses. I want to help lead that charge. And then it was just very, very slow and steady. He was going out to people that he knows were really smart and saying, we have this opportunity. And it's like, no. So it was a real slow build. And I started in 2021 and it was still like, okay, we can do this. We can do this. Can we do this? And then ChatGPT came out, and then everyone's coming back to Paul saying, this is what you were talking about. And I think just ChatGPT made it so tangible and understandable. It's like, oh, this is artificial intelligence. So, and I know that generative AI is a very, very, very small part of the AI puzzle and all the opportunities we have with AI, but I think that was something that people could actually wrap their head around and see a direct impact from what they were doing to, prior to how AI could help them in so many different ways. So it really changed the trajectory of the company.
Oh, and I know that you've seen explosive growth, and I love your mission of making AI more accessible to small businesses. So can you tell us, for those who may know a little or hearing about the Marketing AI Institute for the first time, kind of what the Institute does? Because anytime someone's like, I don't know where to get started with AI and marketing, I always send them to you because you have so much rich resources on it. But maybe you could tell our viewers and listeners some of the content and programming offerings that you have.
Well, first of all, thank you. That's very kind of you. So Marketing AI Institute, we are a media, event, and education company. So the media company side is blog posts, ebooks, white papers, research, podcasts, blueprints, all the webinar or all the media company stuff. So all of that is free. A lot of it's ungated. And then there's the event arm, which is we've got an intro to AI class that Paul and I do once a month. We have AI Academy for Marketers, which includes a piloting AI, scaling AI. So depending where you are in your AI journey, we have a course for you. And the intro class is free, and it's a great place for people just to come and learn. And if that's the only thing they do with us, by all means, take that hour, learn a little bit, get a little educated, and that's fine. We don't push you to, we do tell you, of course, we're marketing. We do say, here's something you could get after, but it's a very, very small part of that hour. And then our event arm. So we have some virtual summits. We just finished our AI for B2B Marketers Summit. We've got an AI for Writer Summit. We have an AI for Agency Summit coming up in the fall. And then our big flagship event is MAICON, our marketing AI conference that's taking place in September in person in Cleveland, where Helen is taking the stage.
Yes, I'm very excited. I wanted to go last year, and a few friends went, and they just raved about how great it was, and that they couldn't see how it could be topped this year. But looking at the lineup, there's a lot of speakers that I'm really excited to see, in addition to being on stage. So really great event. And for everyone who's interested, I'll be sure to include all the links to everything that we mentioned in the dedicated blog post, which we'll link to in the description. And this episode is coming out on June 27th. And I think there's another webinar coming out, the 5 Essential Steps to Scaling AI, that's released the same day. So I want to give you the opportunity to plug that too.
Oh, thanks. So we started piloting AI, which is an 8-hour course pre-recorded that people could take at their own pace, just kind of giving you the frameworks of here's what artificial intelligence is, here's how it impacts you as a marketer or business leader, and then goes through how to identify where AI is right for you, goes through some different use cases, whether you're in advertising, PR, communications, analytics, sales, and giving you some ways that AI could immediately help you, or give you some use cases to kind of get your mind thinking about where it fits best for you. And then the next step of that is scaling AI. And scaling is created for leaders, whether it's department leaders or company leaders. And I like to say those aspiring to be. I think there's a lot to learn for everyone in that course. And it's the next 6 hours of content saying, okay, you want to build a generative AI policy. You want to build an AI roadmap. You want to onboard, this tool. How do you do that? How do you identify which tools to be using? And I'm really, really excited because I went through it all a few weeks ago when I was, editing the videos, doing some work in one of the tools that we use. And I was like, I want to go back through this as a customer because there's just so much stuff in there. How to prompt to get this outcome, how to do this, and ways to use AI, almost compounding AI, use this tool for this, and then take that output and put it here and take that, it's just like, there's so many ways to use it that, we're just scratching the surface. So it's exciting to see, how we can get our brains going a little bit more. So that webinar that day on June 27th is going to be Paul going through a very practical, tactical, useful webinar saying, if you're ready for that next step, our Scaling AI course is going live that day.
Very cool. Well, I looked at the agenda items on it, and I want to take it as a customer to just soak it in. And one reason why I send everyone to you, as like a marketing background, it's like I want to create all these courses, but you guys are already doing it and really so prolific in all of your content. So I just send them to you all since you really have it covered when it comes to marketing and AI. And one thing that I like about your tagline is like more intelligent, more human. And I was wondering if you could kind of expand on that, what that means to you all.
Yeah, I think one thing I really like about the mission of the company and just, Paul, Tracy, Mike, Tamara, Claire, Noah, everyone on our team, we're very much like, we are not trying to have AI replace anything that we're doing in particular. We're looking AI. We want AI to augment some of the things that we're doing so we can actually be more human, so we can be more creative, so we can do the things we really love doing. We don't advocate for companies using AI to cut their headcount in half I think that's going to come back and bite them. I feel like AI, there's so many ways that AI can help us in our jobs. There's ways for AI to help us shut our computers at the end of the day so we can go outside and be in nature and do things that we love doing, spend time with our families. That sounds really hokey, but it's really true. Like, let's find the ways we can use this for good and use this to make ourselves really happy, take away some of the rote, repetitive things we don't love doing, and put it and let us use our energy for good. So I think, we can use AI to focus on us being more intelligent in certain ways so we can be more human in other ways. One example that I have is our event. So we have all these systems and processes as far as our email distribution, promoting the event. But the most impactful way for us to get people to attend our event is me spending hours and hours and hours doing individual outreach to people that I know. And I'm saying, Helen, here's why you should be here, because I know you're working on these 2 things. We're going to have these sessions that you could get, you'll get the value of your attendance by attending these 2 sessions, or I just want to see you. I haven't seen you I haven't seen you since last year. And they're genuine emails from me. And that takes time. So by using AI to do other things, it's affording me the time to be able to do what I really love doing. And that's doing that outreach to people saying, I can't wait to see you in September. And it works. And it's not disingenuous, but it works.
I fully support that. And I'm a big believer that we're kind of co-creating the future right now, and we get to decide. And I think one of my fears is everyone's like, AI is going to, help improve all this productivity, but then we'll just expect everyone to do 10 times more work in the same amount of time. And, productivity has increased over the years, but are we vacationing more right now? I think there was some economists, what was it, in the 20s or 30s, that's like the people of the future, their biggest problem is going to be, what are they going to do with all of their leisure time, which really hasn't come to bear. So it's like, we didn't really get it right the first time. Can we really get it right this time with the intentionality of how we're using these tools so that we can get out and do more things that we love? So I'm on this train with you all to co-create this future.
Hopefully this young generation, I have two 20-something year olds, and they are very much of, we are going to work and we are leaving. So maybe between the combo of their mentality, their mindset, and AI, that maybe will actually come to fruition.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, and one thing too, I wanted to make sure that we talked about on the show is, I'm based here in Cincinnati. You are in Cleveland, and there's this whole responsible AI movement and a lot of just excitement and activities happening here in Ohio. And I know a lot of people may not realize everything that's happening. So I wanted to kind of take a few minutes to really discuss what's happening in the Midwest, but specifically Ohio. So I wanted to kind of get your feedback on what you're seeing from the seat that you sit.
I just think there's so many people in Ohio that are genuinely interested in this, are very talented in this, and are the people that are on the right side of this movement. You and Kendra in Cincinnati, Chris Berry in Columbus, Lieutenant Governor Husted, Paul, obviously, and our team in Cleveland, Cal Al-Dubaib, Nicole McCaffrey, they're at the Responsible AI Institute. So Cal and Jason Tabling are at Further, and they are, Cal formerly owned Pandata, and he is now with Further acquired Pandata. But all of these people are just really, really smart people, very, very talented, but really are like, we have one chance to get this right. And we want to make sure that we are on the right side of all of this. So all of these things that we're saying, none of us are saying, like I said, AI is going to be the best thing in the whole entire world. How can we be using it to do the right thing? And I think there have been instances where even we've had people come talk to us about, let's partner together, and we do a little digging and we're like, this isn't the right fit. So we are making sure that all the things that we are doing are following a path that lets us sleep at night and know that we are trying to push this whole industry forward. And I think that a lot of Ohio is doing that. And there are so many good people. It's not like, oh, Ohio X is doing this, we should have been doing that. It's like, oh my gosh, good for them. Let's partner with them to do something else, or let's join them, let's support them, let's sponsor them, whatever it is, to make sure that Ohio's at the forefront. Because I really think that we are ahead in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and that's something that we say a lot. So you mentioned Kendra, and those who are listening to the show know that I co-host the largest AI meetup in the Southwest Ohio region, which Cathy is coming to our next meetup on July 9th to talk about the MAICON conference. So if you want to see her in person, open invite. I'll put the link to that too. But we also have in Cincinnati, the University of Cincinnati, which has the Digital Futures Building, where we co-host our AI meetup. And that's a $100 million investment in the Innovation District here, and a multidisciplinary building. And we have Dr. Kelly Cohen, who has been a responsible AI leader for like 20, 30 years. So we have that. Another group in our community just had Cincy AI Week last week, which was the largest. I think Chicago might beat us this week. But prior to this, the largest AI conference in the Midwest. And then I think they've already scheduled one for Columbus. Intel is putting $20 billion into a chip factory. So there's just a lot happening that's really exciting. And I'm really proud that we're kind of leading this responsible AI movement. And I've said before, the whole move fast and break things has like broken society on the coast, like from the hyperpolarization, teen depression, the loneliness epidemic. And we have these like Midwest values that I think really can shape this responsible AI and how we want to co-create the future for the better. So I'm very proud to be in Ohio at this moment in time.
I agree. You're right. And that's a very, very good way to look at it. Is just we're excited, we're smart, we want to advance all of this, but we just are taking a minute to make sure it is the right way to go.
And on that note, where do you see, like, from the marketing AI lens, like, what are people thinking right now? Like, what are the biggest opportunities and the biggest challenges? Because I know we get hit with like a slew of news, it seems like every day, of what to happen. So what are you kind of seeing, both on the biggest opportunities and the challenges as you're talking with marketers in the B2B space?
Well, it's interesting. I'm on this weekly Zoom meeting with a bunch of marketing leaders. And every week it's like really, really deep conversations about go-to-market strategies, just big overarching marketing issues within a company. And they're very strategic. They're very deep conversations. And a few months ago, the person asked me, who was in charge of it, asked me, can you come on and talk about some of the tactics you're using for your podcast production and things you're using at the Institute? And I was like, it's just so basic. It's a little daunting to talk to your peers. You're very, who are at that level in marketing. And he's like, could you just do it? I'm like, well, I'll do it for like 30 minutes and we can talk about other things for the last 30 minutes. Of course, me, doubting myself. But so I was going through it and they were like, whoa, slow down. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, this is really the most basic stuff. So I was just very surprised that these very, very smart marketers and business leaders didn't really understand a lot of the basics. So I think we have seen that education is a huge problem when it comes to some of these companies and some of these marketing leaders who just don't have the time. It's not like they're not smart enough to do it. They are very, very smart. They don't have the time to invest to learn about it. So it's kind of become, it's just getting put on the back burner. But as you know, AI is not going away. So they really need to step up. So I think an opportunity is that we just need to get some of this free content, free marketing, or, free courses that we have out to these folks and saying, just invest a little bit of time. And to your point about, just how can we stay on top of things? I actually posted a LinkedIn post a few days ago about I time block. I block a few hours a week so I can dive into new tech, find some new use case, take my new use cases, dump them into these new tools, compare it to things I've been doing, or find something totally new. And then I get on each morning and I talk to some people. I'm in a few different Slack communities, including ours, where I'm reading some things, trying to learn some things. And then I'm listening to our podcast. I realize that I don't need to be an expert in artificial intelligence to do my job. I just need to know how AI can help me at my job. So I can't be all things. So what I need to be is I need to be in charge of growth for our company. So if I can just dedicate an hour to listening to Paul and Mike each week, because let them do the legwork, let them spend, hours and hours and hours curating the podcast, curating these articles, curating the news, telling me why I need to, what it is, why I need to care. I can get it all in a week. And certainly I do have to read some more things just based on the company I work for. But generally speaking, I can keep up pretty fairly with just listening to the podcast. So it's just prioritizing where I need to be spending my time. And where I need to be spending my time is implementation and less on knowing all the ins and outs of artificial intelligence.
And I'll be sure to link to that because I'm always impressed with the news coverage and the depth of coverage that the podcast covers too. And again, it's like, man, should I be doing that for my show? It's like, no, they've already got it covered, so I'm going to stick to my lane. And in the deeper conversations, because our viewers and listeners are, from the whole spectrum of the AI curious, and this is a safe space to kind of listen and learn a little bit, to the more advanced AI users. And it seems like some topics that are kind of top of mind right now are, Google's AI summaries, how that's going to impact search. And I saw that Will Reynolds, who I'm a huge fan of, is one of the speakers at the MAICON conference, is like one of the topics. And then Perplexity has Pages now. And then, of course, like the future of work. But are there, in some of your deeper conversations, are you hearing like what feedback or how marketers are thinking about these maybe more advanced topics too?
Well, I think that's one of the joys of having MAICON is because we're a team of 7 people and we can't keep up with all of this stuff. So we need to make sure there are people like you and there are people like Will who are coming on the stage saying, well, like, please explain this to us so we can know what's going on. But a few weeks ago, Paul was trying something out in the Perplexity pages. And he was like, oh my gosh, look at this. So from our perspective, we are doing the same as everybody else. We are diving into these tools and we are just trying things out. From a search perspective, I was talking to someone in the industry who is a huge, like will level of search, like that was in the weeds on when it comes to SEO. And he was like, I don't know. We're doing the best we can. We're just figuring out as we're going along. And I think that's one of the joys of kind of where it is right now is certainly there are people that are doing this better than many, but there are also a lot of us who are just learning as we're going along. It's like no ego. Let's just figure this out together. And then just let people know about where we are along the way and what challenges we're running into, what opportunities we see, what light bulb moments went off. And I think that's kind of where we are with a lot of these things between our Slack group and MAICON. It's in even our team meetings. It's like, we're talking today about a GPT that Paul built over the weekend. So it's just fun to keep learning.
Nice. Yeah. And I find some comfort in that because it's like, I feel like I try to stay on top of all the news as much as possible with my show, but still it kind of can be overwhelming. So I hope some of our viewers and listeners find comfort too, that we're all in the same boat together as we're navigating this wild new AI world that we're all navigating together. And I do like your framework. If you're willing to share a few of the tips for our listeners, maybe like a teaser for your AI 101 course on like how to start thinking about marketing and AI and what the components are of, for those who haven't started or very into maybe haven't just played with ChatGPT or haven't even touched it, maybe you could give a few pointers to our listeners and viewers too.
So this is Paul's work. So I'm just going to share a few things, but no, it is Paul Reitzer's part of his presentation. But he talks about two different things. There's a problem-based model and there's a use case model. So the problem-based is, web traffic is down, like some big business problems. Churn is up, website traffic is down, sales are down. So some big fundamental business problems that you need to solve. Is there an AI tool that can help us? The easier way, the quicker way is, what's a use case? Do you have a use case that you could be using an artificial intelligence tool for? And an example of that would be, which you saw, Helen, is our podcast. So at the time that I did the presentation last year, I was producing our podcast. We have someone else helping me with it now. But, there are 30 steps every week to producing the podcast. So let's write out those 30 steps. Is there a tool that could help us with any of these things? So, okay, yes, from an editing standpoint, we found a tool that could help us. So let's benchmark that. How long did it take? Just some of those things. Use the tool. Did you save time? Did you save money? Was it a better experience? Is it a better output? What is the value that tool gave to us? And then was it easy? Was it easy to train? Was it easy for us to train ourselves on how to use it? Was it affordable? All those types of things. And then once you can identify a use case and you have you do a pilot program, then I could go back to our leadership team. If I was in a position that I needed to get someone to approve it, and I would say, okay, here's what I did. Here's what the outcome was. Can I do more? Can we train the rest of the team on this? Can we buy the paid version? Can we, all of these different, what's the next step? But starting with something tangible, a use case versus finding a cool tool and saying, oh, what could we do with it? Start with the use case because you're going to get a better result.
I love that tip. And I guess on that front too, it sounds like your approach, at least at the Marketing AI Institute, is that everyone's kind of empowered to start using AI themselves with their own use cases and then bring it to the broader team. When you're consulting with companies, whether agencies, since we are at the intersection of creativity and AI, to any type of business, is that your general approach, or is it just kind of custom to each company and their AI policy and needs too, or the size?
Yeah, it's definitely dependent on the company, because if you have HIPAA, if you're in healthcare and you have HIPAA, if you are in financial services and you're regulated industries, there are so many things you need to take into consideration when you're thinking about an AI tool. If someone from a healthcare system is using an AI tool to analyze data versus an AI tool to rewrite a press release and use it to create social shares, those are two very, very different experiences within that organization. So making sure that you have a policy in place, making sure there are people on the team and company wide that know what's going on, knows what tools are out there that are being used, and making sure your team knows, here are some implications on if you do take this customer data and put it into a tool, what it's going to do. So educating the team members. And someone like us, we're, like I said, we're lean, we're agile, we can move quickly. We have, a CEO and a team who knows about this stuff. So, we do need to take pause and say, okay, when I'm trying to forecast for MAICON ticket sales, what can and can I not put into some of these systems? Where can I strip out some identifiable data but I can still use it? So it's just trying to find that right balance of using AI versus knowing our customer data is our most precious asset. So we need to be really, really careful with how we're using it. So every company needs to, kind of look at that framework and say, okay, what are we really allowed to be doing? And there are some companies that are like, nope, no way, we're not using any of it. And I think they're going to get left behind, and they're going to get behind. But I also think there should be some advocates in the company saying, we understand your hesitation, we understand this, but here are some ways that would be very safe for us to use that would still help us from an efficiency standpoint. And there's so much more than efficiency gains, but I think it's a really good way. It's a very tangible and visible way to see an impact.
And when it comes to, I guess, how to use generative AI output for end marketing purposes, I'm curious what your stance is, because, some companies are comfortable using ChatGPT images and Mid-Journey images despite, how they've been trained. Other companies only use them maybe in the brainstorming and internal processes, but not on the final output. Do you all have a stance when it comes to what output is, I guess, commercially safe or recommended for companies? Or is it kind of everyone's kind of determines their own barometer of what they're comfortable with too?
Well, I think the most important barometer is what's legal. If you are an agency working for a client in your work for hire agreement, your client thinks that you are writing the content, creating the images, that you are doing everything as a person. So technically, if you're using any of that for your clients, you're breaking that agreement because they can't actually copyright anything that you're using. You're creating using the tools. So if you write a blog post in ChatGPT, change 51% of it, change 99% of it, you can't copyright that. That's as according to U.S. copyright law today. So like you said, ideation is really great. Emails are really great. Social shares, things like that you wouldn't copyright. But if it's a blog post, if it's an image on your website, if it's your tagline, if all of those things, just be really careful. Talk to your attorney. Make sure that your team, knows the right way to use it. So aside from just that barometer of what's right or what's wrong, there's a whole legal side of it that people need to worry about. We use it a lot for ideation. I use it a lot for a landing page for a webinar where I don't want to use a stock photo. I don't have a huge library of assets I could be using for that. So I will use ChatGPT to come up with an image. And it's this big on our website. It's a very secondary, tertiary part of that page, but it needs a visual of some sort, and that's okay. So we're trying to find ways that we can use it efficiently for those sorts of things, but not for the bigger stuff.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think helpful as people are navigating, is it okay or is it not okay to use these ChatGPT or DALL-E images as well too. And I'm curious, you mentioned the podcast that you helped produce. What are some other ways that you use AI personally?
Oh, personally. I think, Goodreads, Spotify, Peloton, those are the apps I use, I think, the most, that all are recommender engines for me on how I'm using AI in my day-to-day life. And then it kind of helps me think okay, how can I use that recommender engine idea in my day-to-day, in my work? What can I be doing and aside from just you're reading this blog post, you might like this blog post. I think that's an okay use case. I think it's not as effective as something else. Could I be using that in my email system and creating a recommender engine for things within our emails to get people to come to the event? All those sorts of things. It's gets my head spinning on where are these opportunities and where do we start? And that's when I go back to that spreadsheet of identifying the use cases and what's going to have the biggest impact on the business.
Very cool. And do you have any, since you mentioned a bunch of tools, start with the use case, but I'm curious, what are some of the LLMs that you use the most, or some tools that are some of your favorite that you found with being the chief growth officer?
ChatGPT 4.0 is, I'm using that right now. I just default to that. I'll have ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, I'll have them all open at the same time, and I'll give them different prompts. And it's not always ChatGPT, but there's never been like, oh yes, this is definitely the best one for this. It just kind of depends. Maybe it's my prompt, maybe it's that day, maybe it's the topic. I don't even know. But I do like to test them out a little bit to see what's performing. I do like to use some of the free tools sometimes when I am talking to folks. I could say the free tools are actually really good. Start there. You don't need to jump in and buy the tool, nor do I think you need to jump in and buy 3 of them. Find one, find the interface you like best, find the experience you like best, and buy that one. But ChatGPT I like. Descript is my favorite tool. I'm using it for transcription, editing podcasts, editing webinars, editing any video, cutting up snippets for when we're doing, any of our social shares, and short things for, short snippet videos for LinkedIn or something. So we're in Descript a lot. And so that's probably where I spend most of the time from an AI standpoint, if it's not ChatGPT. And then there's tons of others. I mean, I could go on. I could be a whole hour podcast of just the tools that we're using. But Opus Clip is one that we've been using a lot to get some short form videos. Because again, it's just me not having a big video, experience. It's just been great for me to be able to use some of these tools to fill a knowledge gap for me. And the more I use them, I actually am getting better at video. So it's taught me a lot of things. But it helps me, when we need to get something out quickly, these tools are there to help. And not always are the, Opus Clip, for example, you'll get 10 to 12 outputs from one 60-minute video. They'll give you 10 short vertical videos for YouTube Shorts, Instagram Stories, TikToks, things like that. And I would say of the 10 to 12, probably 6 to 7 are ones we'd actually use. So they're not always right, but it gives me something, so we don't use them all. So, but it does, more than half of them we use in some capacity.
We've dabbled with that, and I'll be sure we'll include all the links to all these too. But it is amazing, just how quick, because, finding clips in an hour-long podcast where you have to listen to it all, find the timestamps, then a video editor clip them and do the closed captions on top of them. Opus, and I think there's another one, CapCut. They do it within minutes, if not seconds, and you can still edit them. But I mean, talk about efficiencies and saving time. That can be a very tedious process. And the video editing, they really are pretty fantastic. And I know I call them my AI assistants. I have a tab with all of them open too. And for the different titles for the podcast episodes, I'll brainstorm 2 or 3 and then ask each of the assistants which one they think is best and why.
Nice.
And usually it's a 3 to 2 vote among the AI assistants. And then I pick the final one. But it's interesting to see which word they lean into or don't lean into in that regard. So that's an easy tip for people listening of, ask the same question to all of them and see if you get any different answers and what you think, using your intuition at the end of the day on that front.
And really, speaking of asking questions, it's also really good to be able to talk to one of these tools and say, I'm working on this. You are a blank. You are working on this project, and here's what you're looking for. And here, and give me this output. By the way, what questions do you have that I'm not answering so you can give me a better output? So having a two-way conversation with these tools, and I could say, oh, you didn't tell me when the event is. You didn't tell me who you're targeting. You didn't tell me these 3 things. Give me that information so I can make the output even better. And having that conversation, because sometimes, oftentimes, most of the time, that first output isn't what you want. You're like, oh, wait, I didn't tell them this, or I wasn't clear enough or something. So it's fun to play around with them. And actually, I was down this rabbit hole trying to come up with a theme for this year's event. And I knew what I wanted it to be, but I just couldn't think of the right words. And I went back and forth with ChatGPT. I mean, I'm going to say 20 times. and the outputs were never good. And I felt so bad. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but that's not exactly what I'm looking for. And, I must have, and then thank you so much. That was great, but it's not quite there yet. And I was like, is it ChatGPT going to be like, forget it. We're done. I'm not helping you anymore. And I didn't. But it was just funny about how I was so worried about offending it and like having it like not give me any more information. So
that's funny. I actually got to do a Q&A with Professor Dekai, who's a luminary in the AI space as well. And one of the things that he had said of what to do with these AI chatbots and whatnot is to be nice to them, because as we're interacting with them, we are training them the human component. So I know I always say please and thank you unless I'm like really short of time, because we're training them on the politeness and the good side of human behavior and interacting with them. So that was one tip, is to be nice, to be nice when you're interacting in these conversations.
I call that Midwest prompting.
I love that. I'm going to borrow that and give you credit whenever I use it. Do you have any other favorite prompts that you like to use or share?
We use it a lot for social. I started in social media when social media just was fresh. And the best thing about it was talking to people and talking to humans and social listening and listening to, people are talking about your brand. And that now it's just like become this distribution channel for your content. And I get it. It's valid. People are looking for resources. Paul's best resource where he's getting all his AI news is through a LinkedIn or a Twitter list of all these publications and all these people. So it is very valuable to digest content and find content on these channels. However, I still feel like the meaning of social media is to be social. That said, I know how important it is for us to put our blog posts, our podcasts, everything on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and everywhere. It just takes so much time. So we use ChatGPT or any of these tools to help us craft all those posts. Here's the post name, or here's the podcast episode. Here's what was discussed. Please give me, 12 tweets, 7 LinkedIn posts, 7 Facebook posts. I want them this length because I want to include a link. Here's Paul and Mike's Twitter handles. Please include the Twitter handles of any companies mentioned. Find some hashtags that might be really useful that I'm not thinking of that are getting some good traction on Twitter right now. Don't include emojis, or I like emojis, but I don't love emojis because ChatGPT loves emojis. What else? Just all these different things. The more detailed you are on what you want, the better the outputs you're going to be. So we, Claire and my team and I, we talk a lot about the different prompts we're using to get the best results for this system that we have every single week when the podcast is done. It's like that one podcast episode turns into 30 pieces of content. So we do have a lot of the same prompts that, again, need to be massaged depending on the topic, but more often than not, it's very, very similar from a prompt standpoint.
As someone who has a podcast, I feel your pain on the amount of production work on a weekly basis. And just out of curiosity, do you create a new thread for each episode, or do you build on the same thread so it like remembers your previous prompts and stuff? This is getting a little into the weeds and nerdy, but super curious.
I love questions like this. It depends on what it is. I would say for the podcast, I was starting a new one each time, but there have been things where I have said, I have built on the same prompt. I just did this where I liked the output and I said, okay, now try this. Now here's my next question. Here's my next question. Build it in that format. So it really just depends. What I have done before that I think makes a difference is if it's helping me write something, I'll take that output and I will put it in, and then I'll put it in Word and I'll edit it in Word. And then I'll go back and I'll say, thanks, here was my end result. And then it'll say, thanks, thank you for sharing. This is a great output, or this is a great post, or this is a great email or whatever. So that's been really interesting. I'm like, I wonder if it's learning me now because I'm now giving it feedback on what I took from that and what I changed.
I haven't done that, but I'll try it maybe with your episode. One thing I do, because for each episode, I do a pre-recorded intro and I take the transcript, which I know my podcast agency uses Descript a lot. Mm-hmm. We actually use Otter for the edit. So I'll take the audio file, put it in Otter, and then do the edits there so that they know what to do. So I'll take the transcript, the bio, and as much as I can get from the company and put all of that. I actually use Claude for this piece. And then I have a few pre-recorded intros I really like. I was like, here's all the information you need. Here's a pre-recorded intro to model it after that I like. Take all this information and now do the output. And it really saves a lot of time of like, could take me anywhere from, a couple hours to do this. Now it's an hour or less with the help of that and just having example text for it to model off of is really nice to use too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have done something where I've written an email and then the next week we want to resend it to people that didn't open it or people that did open, depending on what we're trying to do. And I have put it through the tool saying, can you revise this for me? And I'll say, put it from, I have enough published works online and now enough published works in ChatGPT that I can say, don't forget, this is coming from Cathy. And it sounds like me. And it's crazy. And I've tested it saying, okay, make it sound like Paul, make it sound like Mike. And it does. It's pretty fascinating on how much these tools know, these models have been trained on all these different works.
Well, and I'm super curious about the custom GPT you all are using, because we've started dabbling with it a little bit for Creativity Squared, but I've been traveling so much doing this conference circuit this spring that I haven't really got to spend so much time on it. But I'm curious how you all are thinking about custom GPTs or Paul's experiment with it.
It's fresh. So I don't have a whole lot to share on that yet, other than the fact that Claire on our team has developed a few GPTs for our podcast and for social media. Paul is doing one now based on the Scaling AI course that he just did. And actually our team, we were going to do a hackathon one day where we all had to learn about GPTs, custom GPTs, and go build a use case for our company and come back. And we were going to kind of do like a little show and tell type thing. And then AI doesn't stop moving, so we haven't had time to do it. But it's on our list of things to do. So I'd love to share more about that after it's done. But we're just tinkering. We're still in that early stage of that. But I think there are some really, really valuable use cases, especially for the things we're doing, like you said, on a week by week, day by day, month by month, whatever that cadence is, basis that these GPTs are there to help us through that process, make it even more efficient.
I find that very comforting that you're tinkering too, because I feel a little behind. I was like, I should already have a custom GPT for Creativity Squared. So, and what's funny? A guy on my team, which I'm very proud that he took the initiative, went through all the Otter transcripts and created one because I was like, we need to update the categories to make it easier to navigate on the blog. And he put all of them in there and started interacting with it to come up with themes. I was like, that's great. You took initiative. That's such a clever way. And then the content creator in me was like, man, anyone could take any of the transcripts from the podcast and do this themselves. And I don't know how I feel about that. Like it's going to happen. It's going to be inevitable unless even the coding on the websites can prevent the scraping, but not really people copying and pasting from the website to like start interacting with my content. So I'm like, part of me is like, but the other part of me is like, just embrace it and figure out how to still add value and where a potential custom GPT, if I make it public, like where can it really add value? Have you like had those thoughts as a content creator on your side too?
Well, not from the GPT standpoint, but we just had a virtual event. And someone a few hours after the event said, and it was a free event, but it was a private, you had to register to get in. And the chat was going all day long. I mean, there had to have been thousands and thousands of conversations. And a few hours later, someone who I know really well, I like, trust, respect, everything, said, I used an AI and I took the whole entire chat transcript and I put it here and I'd like to share it with everybody. And I was like, wait, I don't know if I want that. I was like, I don't know. I felt like I lost a little bit of control, but then I took a step back and I was like, does it matter? Was there anything in there that was proprietary, private? Can you just share it with people that were there? What if it got out? I don't know. It was just kind of gave me pause, like, gosh, what a great use case. But I don't know if that was the intention of it. Did the 4,000 people who registered for this event give the authorization for us to use this chat in any way? So it just made me stop and think for a second. So I just said, please don't for right now. I really need to think this through. And he was cool with it.
Well, it's good that he reached out and asked. So if
That's what I
any of
thought.
our listeners do this, yeah.
Right.
Because I know from the consumption standpoint, like I'll put in PDFs into the different LLMs depending on how large it is, because some of them can handle different files. And one prompt I like is give me the 20% of this PDF so I can understand the 80% of it. And it more or less turns whatever the content is into like a quick cliff note so I can like just scan. And then if I want to do a deep dive, I can find the sections in that. So it's like, I love doing that, but do I want people doing that to mine? So, but it's like all for personal use and education. And I'm not taking that and publishing it and, profiting or, not giving credit or anything like that too. So it's very interesting waters because I think it's going to happen. So we should just all, I guess, be intentional at how we're doing it, making sure we give the creators credit and get permission when needed.
Well, Mike does that with the podcast each week. When he's curating these 30, 40 articles, boiling them down into 3 main topics, and then there are some rapid fire topics. But when the first topic was on OpenAI's Sora, and he's like, okay, I have to read these 10 articles about this, synthesize it, get ready to talk about it on the podcast. But at quick glance, he was like, Sora is, I guess, an easy one to understand, but say it wasn't. He could take these articles, put it into one of these GPTs and say, explain to me at a 9th grade reading level what Sora is. So he gets that output and he's like, okay, now that I understand that, I'm going to go back and read the articles now that I understand what it is. And it helps him understand the articles more. So there are ways to use those tools to that without using it in any harmful way. It's just helping him kind of wrap his head around it a little bit before he dives into this big topic that he has to then discuss for thousands of people to listen to and have him as the expert on this, so it just helps it just gets him one step further faster.
Yeah, I love that. And when we talk about AI being a great educational tool, I think that's such a wonderful example of, and I do the same thing of like, summarize it in a way that I can understand and help me prep for whatever I need to do. And it kind of just condenses the learning or speeds it up much faster at whatever level, whether 5th grade, 9th grade, AI marketing expert speak or whatever. So I think that's really great. Well, it is so fun nerding out with you about all things AI and marketing. I feel like we could spend hours just sharing tips and stuff. So hopefully our listeners and viewers are enjoying some of the tips being shared. But before we hop off, because I know we have a time limit, I guess 2 last questions. You've been in the marketing and content creation space for a long time, and this show is at the intersection of AI and creativity. Has your, I guess, view of creativity changed at all with AI? Or how do you think about creativity in your creative process? Is it any different with AI? Or just kind of curious your thoughts on creativity in relation to AI these days?
Yeah, I think it's made me have a really, really deeper, which I didn't know was possible, admiration of creativity and appreciation of it. I feel like these tools can give us so much content, but it's up to us to really make it creative and make it ours and make it the right tone, the right voice, the right image, the right everything. And I don't think AI is there yet. I think we need humans to differentiate. I also think, if you look at the ways that people on our team are using some of these tools, some are better at certain things than others. I've used the example before that Clara on our team came in with video experience. So she took over a lot of the podcast process. So I went from a novice at best video editor. I mean, I would say not like zero experience. And I was fine. It was good. It was a good podcast. It sounded good. It looked good. It did all the things it was supposed to do. But since Claire came in, there's fade ins, there's fade outs, there's images, there's quote graphics over when Mike's reading something from an article. There's all these different things, and it's just like we need these experts. There's such a different experience with the way that she's doing it versus the way that I was doing it. It just goes to show you that AI can help you and give you these superpowers, but the power that you start with is really, really critical.
Very, very well said. And one question I like to ask all of my guests is if you want our listeners and viewers to remember one thing, what is that one thing that you want them to walk away with?
I think I would just say that, AI is here, whether we want it to be or not. It's not going away. I just implore you just find some way that AI could help you, and just give it a shot. And if you have any questions, find a community, find a person, find a group that you can connect with just to help you through this. And if you have any questions, just reach out. I'd love to help in any way I can. And I'm not like a big AI pusher. I would just love to help people, like you said, make it accessible, make it actionable, approachable, help people understand it a little bit. So give it a try.
I think that is great advice and a great note to end the show on. So, Cathy, thank you so much for your time being on the show. Excited to see you in July for our Cincy AI meetup, and then in September for your big signature conference, MAICON. And hopefully we'll get to see some of our listeners and viewers at these events too. So thank you again for being on today's show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for spending some time with us today. We're just getting started and would love your support. Subscribe to Creativity Squared on your preferred podcast platform and leave a review. It really helps. And I'd love to hear your feedback. What topics are you thinking about and want to dive into more? I invite you to visit creativitysquared.com to let me know. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for our free weekly newsletter so you can easily stay on top of all the latest news at the intersection of AI and creativity. Because it's so important to support artists, 10% of all revenue Creativity Squared generates will go to ArtsWave, a nationally recognized nonprofit that supports over 100 arts organizations. Become a premium newsletter subscriber or leave a tip on the website to support this project and ArtsWave. And premium newsletter subscribers will receive NFTs of episode cover art and more extras to say thank you for helping bring my dream to life. And a big, big thank you to everyone who's offered their time, energy, and encouragement and support so far. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. This show is produced and made possible by the team at Play Audio Agency. Until next week, keep creating.